Okay, what's up, guys? I'm really hot. It's really hot in California today. Yeah, so I'm here to do my March wrap up and reading update. But first, I want to say thank you so much for 84 subscribers. No one unfollowed me, but 84 subscribers, that's a big deal. I don't care what anyone says. No, it's not 100, but it's just a big deal to have anyone subscribe to you on YouTube. And I've been going back and forth whether I should even be on YouTube since I'm like more of a bookstagram person, but like this is a nice outlet where there's like less people like watching, you know, and there's something about talking to a camera. I don't know, but anyway, like thank you so much for subscribing to me, because you don't have to do that. Literally, you don't have to. So but you know, like, comment, subscribe, share. You know, if you want to help me out. I'm gonna start doing wrap-ups because like I don't want to do a review for every book anymore. Some books don't need me to review it at length. And also sometimes I feel like I'm repeating myself when I do a book review on here and then on my bookstagram. So I'm just going to do a wrap up, and then for certain books that I feel like are really important, then I'll do a separate video. But yeah, I'm going to do a wrap up now, which is more the vibe of YouTube anyway. The first book that I read in March, or that I finished in March because I started this in February, was The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson. This is a really interesting book about a middle-class black woman named Ruth, who is an engineer, and she's also married to a successful black man named Xavier, who's a marketing executive, and they're just successful black people in the age of Obama. President Obama has just been elected, and they are looking to start a family. Well, Xavier wants to start a family. Ruth is unsure, and the reason why she's unsure about having a child is because she left a child behind when she left her hometown of Ganton, Indiana, for Chicago, Illinois, where she currently lives with Xavier. So this really gets into race, class, what it means to be successful in black, what you have to leave behind to be successful in black. I thought this book was really important, and I think this is a book you want to return to. It's not necessarily a page turner, but I think it is really important to read, and there's a lot of great insights about what it means to be a black woman in the United States, what it means to be successful despite all the barriers, all the stereotypes you're trying to fight. So I really liked this book and enjoyed this book for its insights, though it took me a while to get through. I don't know why, but yeah, this is a good one. I would say buy or borrow this for sure. Okay, the next book I finished, also a really difficult book, but worth it, was another debut. So The Kindest Lie is a debut. This is a debut to Robert Jones Jr., The Prophets. And I've seen some critiques of this book. Actually, I believe The New Yorker had an article about this book that was pretty scathing, but there have been really good reviews. The Guardian had a really good review of this book. And I think the New York Times had a really great review of this book too. But The Prophets is a slave narrative, which I think rubs people the wrong way often because it's just been done, right? The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. So obviously these things are traumatic and hard to read. I think this book is different. This book follows two black men on a plantation called the Empty Plantation, owned by Paul Halifax. And these two black men are queer, and they are in love, and this love sustains them on what would otherwise be a very brutal and just brutal place. I mean, slavery is brutal, but their love is kind of brave. The two people who are in love are Samuel and Isaiah, and their love is a very brave thing. Like I said, like, people recognize it, the enslaved folks recognize that they have this closeness, and people are drawn to it. Either they're curious about it or they're fearful about it. Everyone's curious about how they've sustained this connection on a plantation. But one of the enslaved folks, Amos, gets it into his head that because they are two men that are together and have not given the slave owners any children or offspring, right, that they're the reason why they're suffering, like, their love is the reason why the rest of them are suffering. And Amos gets into his head that he has to basically like condemn them with Christianity. So I really like this book because it's critical of Christianity, or at least the introduction of Christianity to enslaved folks from West Africa, because y'all love to say Africans have been Christian. Not West Africans, okay? I really like the criticalness of how Christianity came to us as a people, but also just exploring queer love and placing queer love in history, because a lot of people want to erase queerness from history, especially Black history. So I really like this book. I would say buy this book. This book is a very prestigious, hard read. It's not like a fun beach read, but it's still worth it. So I really enjoyed this book, but damn, this book took me like basically my whole like March. Like literally, it took me like weeks to read this. And I actually had to restart this book because it was so hard to read. Outlawed by Anna North. Okay, yo, first of all, what a beautiful cover. I love this cover. I just like the pink and the cowboy hat and the lips and everything. So this book has issues, definitely. I mean, you know, it's combining kind of like The Handmaid's Tale with like a Western. If you guys know the Western genre, a lot of like Wild Wild West, cowboy hats, guns, pistols, right? Ada, the main character, is the daughter of a midwife who's just gotten married, 17 years old when she just gets married, and she lives in a society where if you do not have a child, by a certain amount of time, people start to wonder, are you a witch? Are you barren? And if you're barren, you will most likely be hung, or you'll go to a nunnery, or you'll join this gang called Hole in the Wall. So at first she's like, you know, I'm in love with my husband, let's just try this out. But after a year, she can't birth anything. Like, she's barren. She finds out she's barren. She goes to the nunnery. She hates it because she's angry. She's like, what did I do? I don't feel like I did anything wrong. Like, some women are just barren. Like, why do I have to be punished this way? So she joins the Hole in the Wall gang. And it's comprised of, like, genderqueer, you know, people and women who have been basically ousted from their society for not fitting what it means to be a woman, which is have children, raise them, whatever. So this book is good. It has issues with, I think, the kid who is the main non-binary character of the Hole in the Wall gang could have just went by they, them, but they didn't in this book. They always just went by the kid. I've heard complaints about that. I also think race was interesting. There are 2 Native American characters that I remember. One of them is the trader that they deal with, and there's a couple of Black characters, but the history is whitewashed because this is 1894, so the Emancipation Proclamation didn't happen too long ago, but there's no mention of that. There's no mention of slavery, and there were also a bunch of Native American uprisings if you look at the history in the 19th century, because of course, like, the white people were still, they were invaders, you know, and there's no mention of that. So there's no mention of Native or Black uprisings in this book. Everyone just kind of gets along with white people, and I'm just like, in 1894, I know that's not true. So it's interesting. Like, there's a little bit of racial tension, but it's kind of like, oh, but that's just what some people believe in. It's really weird. But for some reason, I think this book is really enjoyable. So I'll say this. If you can't fuck with the whitewashing, which I get, then borrow it or skip it entirely. But if you can just, like, grin and bear it, then read it, because it's actually visually very appealing to see Ada in this Western space, but also with kind of like the reproduction oppression trope of The Handmaid's Tale. So this is a very visually interesting book. So I really actually like this book. This book might end up becoming one of my top 5 for the year. It's really weird because I have so many critiques of this book. The final book is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. So I'm going to be honest and just say what I have to say about this book. I had really high hopes for this book. I pre-ordered this book. I spoke to the author. I was in love with this book. I was like, I have to get this book. And it's not that this book is bad. It's just it didn't live up to what I thought it would be. This book follows the main character, Grace Porter, who is a PhD student in astronomy. And after she gets her PhD, she's kind of like stunned. You know, she's been a scholar for so long. She doesn't know how to be in the real world without, you know, school behind her. She's applying for jobs. She's not getting a job. One interview goes really bad. So she ends up going to Vegas with her friends, gets really effed up, and actually ends up marrying a woman whose name she does not know. It ends up being Yuki. There's also, like, talk about, like, her father, Colonel, he goes by Colonel, who's really hard on her, divorced her mother also. She's biracial, the main character, so her mother's white, father's Black. And he's just really hard on her, especially because he has PTSD from being in wars. And there's also just talk about like found families. She has her friends that they're really close. And Yuki, obviously the woman she married, they end up being really close as well too. So there's interesting explorations of what I like, which is queerness, blackness and queerness, school, study of like what it means to be a student, how these like colleges fill you up with these lies, like you're going to be so successful after you graduate, it's going to be easy, blah blah blah. They pump you up for failure. It's hard to get a job no matter what degree you graduate with, and a lot of schools don't prepare students for that. And I liked that, and I talked to the author about that with her. This is my thing. I'm 25. Grace Porter, the main character in this book, is 28. So if I think a 28-year-old sounds young, then I think she sounds young. This book sounds really young. And it wasn't the older contemporary, it wasn't the adult contemporary I was looking for. You guys know I love contemporary fiction, Luster, Memorial, Detransition Baby, those kind of books. That's the contemporary fiction I like, where it's not too old. New Waves by Kevin Nguyen also fits this. It's not too old, but it sounds not YA, and for some reason this book sounds YA. And I've also noticed on Book Talk and Bookstagram, the people who I feel like identify with this book in particular are very young people. Not 28-year-olds, but 16-year-olds, which is fine. But then I feel like it should have been either young adult or new adult, which is a new genre people are trying to like get started, which is like kind of the in-between adult and YA. It just read really young, guys. It's really, like, I was like, no, you guys are too old to be like this self-conscious and this like, I don't know. There's something about this book. It kind of like didn't ruin it for me, but it kind of made it like less pleasurable to read because I was looking for a voice that was like my own. And for some reason, Grace just sounded so young. Like, I don't know. And don't get me wrong, I will read YA, but then I gotta know that it's YA. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, though, this book really touched a lot of people because queerness and blackness is a duo that we don't see a lot in literature. So I really like that, you know, she's a lesbian. She's not like, oh, I might like, no. Like, the main character, like, likes women. And I really like that. But, man, it was just so young. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think, because I've heard rave reviews about this book, and I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like this book, but it was really young. I don't know why. So those are the 4 books that I read in March. Let's get into the reading update. What am I currently reading? Okay, first, I am currently reading Ace, What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society, and the Meaning of Sex by Angela Chen. This is a book that I've been wanting to read, and I just started it. It's really good. It's not even that long. It's less than 200, and I like that in nonfiction because nonfiction can be really intimidating. And I'm also glad that I'm reading this because I used to be so into nonfiction, and I feel like Bookstagram and BookTube have, you know, kind of moved me away from nonfiction because it's just not popular amongst the people that I'm around. But this book reads really easy, and I just wanted to learn more about asexuality. So far, so good. There is just one part about incels that I thought was like, a little questionable, but not like bad. Just I feel like it was a little questionable, some stuff that was said. But yeah, this book, Ace, if you want to learn about asexuality, nonfiction, but written very in a narrative way. A lot of short stories from people who are ace. So yeah, asexuality also means, if you don't know, that you do not experience sexual attraction to anyone. So that's what it means. This book, We Will Not Cancel Us and Other Dreams of Transformative Justice by Adrienne Marie Brown. This is a book by an abolitionist I really respect. She is also the author of Pleasure Activism, which I had critiques of, but I also really liked. I've heard a lot of people say, you know, cancel culture is not real. I'm not even here to say what's real. You know, it doesn't really even matter whether you think cancel culture is real or not. What this book is trying to say is that we cannot conflate meanings and terms, and we cannot be mean-spirited to people who have good intentions. That's just period. So it clarifies vocab words. So what's the difference between gaslighting and disagreeing with someone, right? Because you can't just be calling people gaslighters just because they don't agree with you or they have a different recollection of what happened. Goes through like what's conflict, what's harm, what's abuse, you know, and I feel like defining these is really important, because I feel like in the internet culture, I'm seeing people say things, I'm like, what? Girl, y'all just disagree. Just move on and disagree. Like, you don't have to use toxic to describe something. I'm sorry. I don't, like, for some purposes, yes, but anyway. So this book is really short. It's not even that long. It's also nonfiction, published by AK Press, so it's an indie publisher. And yeah, I'm really excited to finish this. Okay, lastly, The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. So if I had filmed this a week ago, I would have said that I have only seen positive reviews of this book, but today I actually just watched something where they said this book was not consistent, so I don't know. But the main character is part of a village where if you spill your blood during a ceremony and it's red, then you are accepted into the community. And if you spill your blood and it is gold, you are excommunicated from the community. But if it's gold, you also have powers, I believe. And this book kind of deals with that. I love the cover. I had heard amazing things about this book, so that's why I picked it up. Super excited to read a YA fantasy. I haven't read a fantasy since Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, which is really good. It's an indigenous author, by the way, Rebecca Roanhorse. So, but yeah, I'm super excited to get into this. I haven't read that far into the book because law school, but I'm excited. So yeah, those are the books that I'm reading and have read in March. Let me know what you think about any of these books. Haven't been on in a while. I'm going to try to film a little bit more today, but thank you so much for watching these. This means a lot, honestly, to just even have 84 subscribers. Like, what? I don't know. But thank you, and I will catch you later. Peace. Bye.